Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of our entitled people. In today's episode, coworker took glucose tabs out of my locker because they taste like candy. School bully tried to bring me down. I broke her hand and got her expelled. An evil mama bear got a teacher fired. When my sister claimed I ruined her birthday, an evil mama bear wanted to punish me for it. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Coworker took glucose tabs out of my locker because they taste like candy. About 12 years ago, I worked in security for a high-end resort. It was a small group and the head of security was a retired police sergeant. He was actually pretty cool and had a really strong sense of right and wrong. We had a fridge in the back and I would buy things like juice for when I had a low sugar, type 1 diabetic, and snacks to keep my sugar from bottoming out since I walked 5 to 6 miles per shift. My juice disappeared. I replaced it and the same thing happened again. I got another and wrote on it that I don't use cups and I have mouth herpes. It disappeared again. We all had an idea who it was but couldn't ever catch him. Until I walked in one day and saw the first shift guy making a meal out of my food. I asked him point blank what he was doing eating my food and he said, "That's what you get for being late." I checked the clock and I was 2 minutes late. He even took food out of my locker and was snacking on my glucose tabs because they taste like candy. Somehow the head of the department found out what he said and called me in to ask me about it. Seems this dude had been stealing food from the fridge since he started there, and while people weren't happy about it, they were willing to let it go since a lot of people brought food in and thought of it as community property. This didn't apply to me because they viewed my food as medically necessary, and this was the first time he went into someone's locker. My boss said this would be handled and dismissed me. When I came in for my next shift, all of this guy's stuff was gone and his locker was empty. My mom also worked there at the time, and I found out that because this guy served in Iraq, he felt like everyone owed him. He would constantly come in late to work, pawn his work off on other people, and was the only one who didn't contribute to the communal fridge. If you needed to type up an incident report, you had to wait for him to finish browsing the internet on the office computer. We had only one at the time. I ran into him about 6 months after he was let go while I was doing laundry, and right as I was approaching the big machine, I was doing mine and my then BF's laundry, he jumped in front of me and took it. This guy might be the most entitled POS I've ever encountered. ETA, I told my mom about this post and there was more that happened before I started. I normally wouldn't have added anything because it was already more than enough, but this latest info was straight WTF. I guess he used to try to bring his enormous husky into the office with him, but the boss said he couldn't do that. Okay, the dog isn't in the office anymore. But less than a few hours later, the office received a report about a dog locked in a car. He left his dog in the car. WT actual F? I have 2 dogs, one we rescued just last December and he's 12. I won't even leave him outside in the sun too long, even though he loves to sunbathe because he's my baby. When boss man pretty much asked him WTF and said he can't do that, it's cruel. The guy said he wanted his dog near him but was told he couldn't bring him to work. Oh, you do not steal a diabetic's hypo sweets. I had sweets on my desk at work with the words, medical, written in Sharpie all over. Had a hypo one day, opened the tub and some douchebag had eaten them. I was livid. My work friends bought me clear jar with warnings all over it after that, huh? To be a fly on the wall when you told your friends. My imagination, I'm sure, cannot compare. I always kept some high sugar stuff in my desk when I worked with someone diabetic and had them stashed in a little metal box. Everyone who might need to know knew, but everyone else kept away from it. LMAO everyone. Walmart CPT America here served in Iraq. Please respect him by donating your food. Did I mention he served in Iraq? Guarantee he was a POG who spent 6 months shuffling paper in the green zone and then came back and made grunt-style shirts and Black Rifle coffee his entire personality. Type 2 diabetic here, and this story infuriated me. Only once did my lunch ever get stolen and I was beyond pissed. So I went out, bought an insulated lunch bag and kept it at my desk. The bosses tried to convince me to put it in the communal fridge, but I told them I couldn't risk having my lunch stolen, especially with my medical condition. Since then, my lunch bag stays with me, at my desk and in my drawer. School bully tried to bring me down. I broke her hand and got her expelled. An evil mama bear got a teacher fired. Since the last post I made was rather depressing, here's a story that's a bit out of the norm for me, as most of what I have to tell about my mother and sister was pretty bad. But this one is a bit different. This is one of the few times my mother EMB did anything good for me. In retrospect, it was mostly just Karen versus Karen though. And had I not lived a life with this kind of shit in it, I wouldn't believe the lot of this myself, as this is pretty much stereotype galore. Aside from my mother being a real piece of work, the fact that a teacher was evil in this case still rather irks me. Teachers are supposed to be good people you can trust. And thankfully I've only really had one bad teacher in the entire time I was in school. In elementary school I dealt with a bully that we'll call Tina for this. She was big and strong for a girl her age, and loved to throw it in the face of others. And she had a posse of kids that regularly followed her around. What's more, her aunt was one of the teachers at the school, and was one of the teachers who stood watch during lunch period, and out in the playground watching the kids during recess. So Tina got away with a lot of stuff because her aunt never stopped her. Tina's favorite thing to do was steal food from other kids in the cafeteria. Especially desserts. And this made her a bit more heavy set. So she used her weight to get her way a lot. She loved to pick on kids she thought wouldn't fight back, but usually steered clear of any that were too big. There was a guy in my neighborhood that we'll call Troy. He was about 5 years older than me and took defensive martial arts. He showed me how to do a few moves in case I dealt with bullying. One move in particular was to crouch down and then jump up and hit your opponent in the chin to disorient them. But most of what Troy taught me was how to dodge. He showed me how to step out of the way anytime someone threw a punch or kick. He also showed me how to do some basic grapples and throws using momentum. I couldn't thank him enough for those skills, as they helped a time or two. Now moving back to the bully Tina. She soon decided I was her next target one day at lunch when she tried to steal my chocolate pudding cup. I was bigger than her, so she typically left me alone. But I guess she somehow figured she'd test the waters and come after me next. She blatantly reached for my pudding cup and I just pushed her hand away. She tried again and I refused to let her grab it. She tried to smack me, but I grabbed her arm and told her she better leave me alone, or it wouldn't end well for her. She literally snorted at me and said that she would just get her aunt to get me in trouble. But I showed no fear of that. So she moved in closer and goaded me by saying my sister would make a nice punching bag for her if I didn't cough up the pudding. I laughed and told her that if she laid one finger on my sister, she'd have to deal with both me and my crazy mother. And that would not end well for her. Tina blew me off and said she'd come back and deal with me later. Then during recess she snuck up on me by the tetherball and hit me over the head with her fist. That really hurt. But I did as Troy showed me and crouched down while Tina tried to wail on me. Then I jumped back up and hit her chin hard. I ran to stand right next to a nearby wall. As soon as she recovered enough, Tina ran right at me, charging like an angry rhino ready to do a running punch. I stepped out of the way and she ran fist first right into the wall. Tina screamed bloody murder and all the other kids that were with her pretty much scattered. So much for loyalty. Tina's Karen aunt came running up and blowing a pee whistle so hard that it was sputtering. She tried to talk to Tina, but didn't get much out of her other than it was him. So Tina's aunt grabbed me by the arm and jerked me really hard out of sight and then actually put her hand on my throat to threaten me. The following is pretty paraphrased from what I remember, as it was over 20 years ago. But I think it's pretty close. And I'll refer to Tina's aunt as TA. TA, loud whisper, what have you done to my niece, you little shit stain? Me, I just defended myself. TA sees another teacher running towards us and lets go of me, Stay right there, you little brat. I'll deal with you later. TA took care of Tina while the other teacher marched me to the principal's office. My dad was unable to get off work, so EMB was called. I dreaded this because I thought she'd never stick up for me, especially since it was a girl that I defended myself against. But then I had an idea that actually worked, though it was a gamble. As soon as EMB walked into the office, she looked pissed, and the first thing she did was yell at me. EMB runs right to me, pointing a finger in my face. You got in a fight with a girl. Don't you have any manners? Boys don't hit girls. It's wrong. Me, tries gamble, but mom. She tried to steal from me, she beat me up. And she said she'd beat up sis because I wouldn't let her take my food. EMB what? She threatened my little princess. The office secretary shushed us both, and I did my best to explain the full story of what happened to EMB before we were ushered by the principal into his office. TA soon met us there with a look like she wanted to murder someone on her face. TA points at me with rage. That little brat broke Tina's hand. She's on her way to the hospital right now because of him. Me, but I only defended myself and she hit the wall on her own. EMB stands toe-to-toe with TA. Well, maybe she deserved that for making fun of Krogel and threatening to hurt my little princess. TA seemed shocked that someone actually stood up to her and was just as much of a Karen as herself. EMB pokes TA hard. Now you listen here. It's Krogel's job to make sure that nothing happens to my little princess here at school. And if anyone here even lays a finger on her or him for it, then so help me, I'll have them expelled or fired. Do you know who my husband is? He owns XYZ company. And he has connections all over. So you better back off. Principal, everyone calm down. EMB no. I will not calm down till there is justice here. She grabbed my son's throat just because he defended himself. I want the cameras checked. And I want the police here now. The principal looked like a ball of stress. And EMB pulled out her cell phone and said that either he calls the police or she would. So he did. We waited in the main office for nearly 2 hours while police went through the camera footage. And it caught not only Tina's attack on me, but also TA putting her hand on my throat. She was marched out in handcuffs with her head down. After that, I told the principal about several other kids that Tina had been bullying. And he talked to all of them. And they told him about more kids. And those kids told him even more. By the following week, word around the school was Tina had been expelled. And from my parents, I was told TA was prosecuted for neglect and child abuse, and was no longer allowed to work with children. I didn't see Tina again until we both ended up in the same high school. We didn't recognize each other at first till Tina heard my name at lunch. She stood up and walked right out of the cafeteria when I introduced myself. After that, she steered clear of me. But she gave me nasty looks whenever we were in the same classroom together. I didn't care. By this point, I had no fear of her, and she knew it. I'd put on some decent muscle from all the odd jobs I did regularly. And I think I intimidated her a bit. She didn't try to bully anyone anymore either. There was no one left to protect her if she did. And she had very few friends. When I got my car at 16 though, I got to see her jaw drop as I drove away from school the first day I'd driven it there. I just gave her a wave and kept on going. By the following school year, she didn't come back. And I haven't seen her since. Edit, someone pointed out that Tina's posse didn't really help her out against me, and were hardly mentioned. This is an excellent point. I didn't really elaborate before because this post was already so long. But Tina was the type that loved to be large and in charge in every way she could. She always wanted to make the first move and the last. So her posse mainly just followed her around and watched her or were lookouts for the other teachers while she beat up other kids. She didn't want other kids to have her back, She wanted them to follow her around like lost puppies and tell her what she wanted to hear. And like I said before, they scattered the moment I got her to break her hand on the wall. They later admitted they didn't like her at all. They were just afraid of her going after them too. All of them were pretty quick to throw her under the bus to the principal as well. And I think all of them got away with a 1-week suspension and a good amount of detention. But it's been a long time. So that might not be exact. That go next to the wall and duck move is great. Wish every bullied kid in a zero-tolerance school knew that one. It's a simple but effective move. Nuclear form of revenge. Great story. When my sister claimed I ruined her birthday, an evil mama bear wanted to punish me for it. This happened the following year after my sister ruined my 10th birthday. My parents had a policy of giving I or my sister a small gift on our siblings' birthday. This was mainly started because on a birthday I had when my sister was 4 or so, she threw a huge tantrum because not one gift was for her. On my birthdays, my sister often got a small inexpensive gift of a doll or stuffed toy. It was mainly just to keep her placated when she wasn't the center of attention. And to keep it fair, on her birthdays I got something small as well. Usually something like a squirt gun or toy car. I always thought of these as pity gifts, but always took them with gratitude. On my sister's 8th birthday though, she picked that time to have a huge tantrum over the pity gift I got. After my sister got her cake and opened her presents, my dad handed me a small red bag with 5 brand new Hot Wheels cars in it. I liked and still do like those toys. And they're only about $1 each. Both now and then. And as a kid I had racetracks to play with them on. My sister though, when she saw me opening the gift, suddenly went bonkers. She thought I was opening one of her presents and screamed. My dad said it was just my little gift on her day, and tried to calm her down. But evil Mama Bear backed my sister and said that perhaps it was time we stopped the pity gift thing. Dad then said that if I don't get a pity gift on my sister's birthdays, then she no longer gets one on mine anymore either. Well, the second my sister heard no gift for anything, even something so minor as the pity gift thing, she went absolutely crazy. Most of what I remember is loud screaming that made me want to cover my ears, and then my dad getting a slice of cake shoved in his face by my sister when he tried to talk to her. EMB had to cradle her to calm her down. Then she tried to direct her ire at me, but Dad, while wiping the cake from his face, said I did absolutely nothing wrong. Hell, I didn't even really talk when that all went down. So EMB just let it go. She tried shooting a dirty glare at me a couple times. But Dad saw her and gave her a look that said, "Don't you dare try and pin the blame on Krogel for this," and she'd sink in her seat a little. My sister, on the other hand, was adamant I'd ruined her party somehow. Rather than try and say anything in my defense, I just took my Hot Wheels cars and walked out of the room for a few minutes. Which I think was the smart move, because when I came back everybody was acting like it never happened. My sister maintained for months that I'd ruined her birthday that year. And when I asked her how, since she got pity gifts on my birthdays too, she would brush me off and ignore me for a while. We kept doing the pity gift thing right up until the year my parents divorced and I moved in with my dad. I do love your stories, what evil Mama Bear has done, but sometimes I would love to knock EMB and your sister's heads together. Believe me, I thought of doing that many times. I mean, my 8th birthday was ruined. Because someone's little sister peed on the bouncy castle, I maintain I was allowed to be upset and feel a grievance against said small child. A sibling's getting a small gift when I get one on theirs? Not ruining the party. Exactly. At 8 years old, she was well aware of what it meant to go too far. Thankfully, she never did anything like pee on something of mine. But she did ransack my room and throw my safe out the window. She sounds like my sister, always throwing a tantrum and screaming nonsense. My mom had to do the pity gift thing too, except she got video games or a new gaming station or phone or bag full of new clothes. I, on the other hand, got a stuffed animal on my birthday and nothing on her birthday for years. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.